and welcome back to the Educator.com's Adobe Premiere Pro CS6 in-depth training course. And in this video, we're going to go over the timeline panel. The timeline is this panel here at the bottom. It shows your sequences. You can have multiple sequences open in the timeline panel, and we're going to go over this panel in this video. And the first thing we want to go over is navigating the timeline. Now there's several different ways that you can navigate the timeline. Let me show you a few of them. Now if you have this timeline selected and you use the scroll wheel on your mouse and you go up and down, it will go by default horizontally. So you can go back and forth through your video and it will scroll all the way through. Now if it's horizontally when you hit and you just scroll it without any modifier keys, if you hold down the control key, it'll go vertically. And you notice that it will only scroll the half of the timeline that's either the audio or the video that you happen to be have your mouse over. So if you have your mouse over the top half where the video is and you hold down the control key and you scroll, it'll move that up and down, but it won't change the placement of the audio, which can be very helpful if you need to find the specific video that is under the playhead. Now, to change that, you can come into the preferences and go to general, and you can tell it the timeline mouse scrolling to be vertical instead of horizontal. So if we go in and we change it, now if we hold down the control key, it will do horizontal, and without any modifier it does vertical. So it's a very easy way to get around your timeline just using the scroll wheel on your mouse. Now you can also, there's a hand tool, and you just hit H and you get the hand tool, and you can just click and drag the timeline back and forth. It works horizontally, as you can see, but you can't do it vertically. It won't work vertically, but it will work horizontally. Now, if you have your audio already set and you don't need to mess with it anymore, either over here or over here, somewhere on the ends here, you can move it out of the way, and it'll give you more room for your video tracks. If you want to work on your audio, just your audio, you can move it up and then you just have your audio showing. Now, most of the time, especially if you have a music video, you will set your audio and then you will lock all of the tracks for the audio, and then you can just move it out of the way and concentrate solely on the video part of the timeline. Now, the shortcut to get to the timeline, if you're on something else, is Shift 3. And it will just jump directly to the timeline. But if you notice, I have 3 other tabs here. If I hold down Shift 3, I will go between all of the tabs, and it will cycle through just using Shift 3 to go through the different tabs. It'll make it a lot easier if you're working on multiple sequences at once. If you have nested sequences, you have a sequence here that is also nested on this sequence. You can close the other 2 tabs and you can jump between them. You need to make a change to this sequence. You make the change, you jump back to the other one, and it will have the change automatically here. To maximize the timeline, you just have either have the tab selected or just have the cursor over that panel and hit the Graph key, and that will maximize the timeline in the screen. So you can work just on the timeline without having to see anything else on the screen. And to get back, you just do the same thing. Just hit the Graph key, which is the key directly above the tab. It has the little tilde on it also. But you just hit that one, and you can go back and forth between full screen and not full screen. Another thing you can do in the timeline is I'm going to maximize this so we can concentrate on just the timeline. And I'm going to pull this up so we're about halfway so we can see the entire thing on the screen. Now if you have this to where all of these are way beyond the edge of the screen, you can use the / key directly above the enter, and it will fill the screen as much as it can with a little bit extra on the side to where it will let you work on and see the entire timeline, the entire sequence in one screen. So if this sequence is just over 3 minutes long, if this sequence was 3 hours long, it would pull all 3 hours down to fit in the screen, plus this little bit. It's about a fifth of the screen extra. So if you need to add things on the end, it's much easier to add them. But again, just like the Graph key, you can jump back and forth between the two, and it just depends on how you want to view your sequence. Now, as you notice, when I did that, I used this little bar down here to go back and forth, and you can just click and drag it back and forth. But you can also, because you notice there are scroll bars here, but there aren't any down here. But these buttons here, these little square buttons, these are your zoom in and zoom out buttons. So if you click and drag that one to the right, you'll see that it's zooming in because it's making the section that you're looking at, this section here, smaller in the entire sequence. Your entire sequence is from here to here, and this is what part you're looking at right now. So by default, this sequence is 13 minutes, just over 13 minutes long, and that gives you enough space to bring in other items to the right here, and you have plenty of space to add extra video to the right. But this is how much you're watching. If you've ever used the navigator in Photoshop, that's what this is. This is your navigator here. So if you want to see more of your timeline, you can just make this longer by just clicking and dragging that out. And you can make it as long as you want or as short as you want. If you go all the way down to the smallest that it will go here, you'll have one frame for each of these little tick marks on your timeline.